Well, I'm very excited about a series that we're going to be doing, interviewing really all the contested Maui County candidates that'll be running for state offices, state reps, and also for the county council. This is a really incredible format where everyone will be able to check out the interviews and really become informed about the different candidates. And this is so crucial during this time. I mean, we're in a situation where we have basically a blank slate in terms of, precedent because of all the incredible changes that we're facing at this point in time. And it's crucial that we have the right representation. So every Tuesday and Thursday, either at 4 or 5 o'clock, we'll be having a series of interviews. This one here is for District 8 State Representative. And we have 2 contestants. We have Kaupuni, who's going to be on first, and then also we have Troy Hashimoto. Then we have on May 5th, starting at 4 o'clock, we have state representatives for District 10. And then on May 7th, starting at 5, it'll be for District 9. So this is very exciting in terms of your ability also to participate. You can ask questions on Facebook Live, and we'll be able to take those at a later time. So that said, I just want to introduce some of our panel that will be asking questions. Our format is that each of the panel members will have 5 minutes to ask specific questions. And then from there, we will go through a whole series until we feel that we really understand the position and platform of the candidate that we're interviewing. So that said, let me just do a quick introduction to Sean Lester, Laura Van Wagner, Daniel Smith, Bruce Douglas, and Sylvia Litchfield, who will be part of our interview team. And we will start with Sean, if you could begin, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Aloha, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining us today. The Pono Network is an iteration of a process that's been going on for more than 20 years. We're a system-based democracy. We decided to start asking questions about things that would allow us to take our government to a level where it actually does answer to the people. We have a series of questions that we'll be asking that go all the way back to the original Ohana Coalition Maui in the 2001-2002 process. So these questions have a chance to have been worked on, modified, and an iterative system for the last 18 to 19 years. First of all, we also really appreciate everyone running for government. It is a tough thing to do. Children at home, wives or husbands, cars, monetary situations. This is what it really means to have a democratic process, to have people step forward. And we have great respect for every single person that is running or is in the elected official status right now, even if we may or may not always have the same viewpoints. The fact that we're here in a participatory democracy is what's really important. So with that in mind, I'd like to lead off with a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. And Kaupuni, it's great to have you here today. So the first question I'm going to ask you, as an elected official, or as you're moving towards being an elected official, are you satisfied with the amount of home rule that Maui has, especially when you watch what's been happening with the governor, the state legislature, and with the response and the needs of the local islands in their own? It seems like each island has its, or in us as a county, each island has its own unique needs. Do you believe that we have enough home rule right now with that pandemic going on?
Yeah, so hello everybody, my name is Kaupuni Aiwohi, running for State House District 8. I'm born and raised in Wailuku. So this question about home rule is actually kind of why I started to run. I really didn't feel like there was enough voice within government. We have so many different needs in our community, and a lot of times those voices aren't being heard. So that's kind of why I wanted to step up and really get into this. So home rule is exactly one of the platforms that is really important to me, for us to really control our own destiny. And a lot of times there's a lot of disconnect with the state, with the governor, and it's a lot of different perspectives going through. But I really do believe that it's the people who really should be making those decisions. So with something like home rule, it really gives the people the power. It really distributes that power to the people. So I'm very supportive of home rule.
Do you believe, would you push for a con with the specific point or a constitutional convention with the possibility of allowing more home rule for the islands now, especially with what's going on?
I'm doing whatever, I'm open to do whatever it takes to really get home rule out there. The con is a very big decision that really takes in a lot of different players, a lot of money. Eventually we will have to have a con, you know, we're not going to have the same thing for the next 100 years. So a con is definitely something that I'm open to, but it really takes a lot of different players to come together for us to be ready to do that. What are the critical issues that have arisen in your district that you'll represent that would be addressed by the state legislature? Yeah, mahalo. So I'm born and raised in this district, so I really know what it takes to really understand our people, and I really feel like education is one of the biggest things that we struggle with. If you look at our state numbers within our schools, just Maui is below average in the whole state, and then our complex area is below average, and our high school and our middle school are lower averages across even within our complex area. So this isn't just a singular issue with that, but it really comes down to the amount of income that our community has. We have a very unique situation. We have different parcels, and we do have Hawaiian homes in here. So really, like, the amount of income that's coming here, the amount of home ownership is something that we really need to look at. Another one is I'm actually a taro farmer within our district. And being a taro farmer is hard enough, but now I have to fight for water, and there's no accountability. And we're working with BLNR, so which is why I joined Hui Nova Eha, so we can really make it easier for taro farmers. So I'm very thankful for that. So we have housing is one of the different issues that I feel like we really need to help our people with. Housing, schooling, and really the health. We do have a very low, if you look at the statistics, our district is very low actually in heart health. And so with health and schooling and affordable homes for our district, I feel like those are things that really are pressing to me at this time.
Okay, mahalo. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Bruce now. Thank you so much for your answers. I appreciate it.
I'm going to pass it on to Paul right now.
Okay.
So, Ka'apuni, one of the big questions that are coming up, especially for this election, is around water and water rights. And certainly there's a lot that happens at the state level when it comes to water. And I just want to read a question that I have here that I think articulates something that's very important. Do you see it necessary for full financial disclosure and transparency for members of the Board of Land and Natural Resources who effectively make decisions involving hundreds of millions of dollars of natural resources, often to the benefit of private businesses and interest? And also they are, as such, unpaid volunteers. And if so elected, what would you do to bring about the needed change, and especially around the issue of water rights and water control by the local residents?
Yeah, so one thing that is very important to me is really that accountability piece, that we really need to know the people that are in these positions. So the DLNR, the BLNR, these are very big departments within our state. And so we definitely need a lot more accountability with that. We have all these big businesses, right? And so I kind of pride myself in being a true progressive. I'm not one that's going to support big corporations, somebody that's going to make all the whatever funds we have left to go to that top. It's really about distributing all those resources to the smaller farmers. Specifically with DLNR, I am very open to support legislation to really get in there. And how do we make it more accountable? How do we understand those people that are doing these positions? Because we don't always know the different motives that we have for people in there. So mahalo.
And do you feel then that lack of transparency is a big part of this? And in terms of appointments, how the representatives are appointed, and what specifically would you recommend to help remedy this?
Transparency is one of the reasons why everybody hates government. So if we were more transparent, if we could do a lot more things, I think our people would really have a better decision of how we want to move forward. Really, the best way to really do any kind of government is let the people's voices be heard, the people that it affects the most. With Maui, kind of going back to home rule, a lot of our state decisions are dictated from people who don't even live here. So how do we distribute that power back to Maui with things like home rule so that our community, the ones that are most impacted, at least have that say?
Great, thank you. Laura, would you like to ask the next question?
Ask for right now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
So Bruce, go ahead.
Kapuni, the Department of Education currently is held, all the decisions are made on the state level. There's been a lot of talk about the counties actually wanting to run their own education, and a lot of corruption within and unaccountability within the Department of Education. Can you address this question?
Yeah, so the idea of a statewide system is actually a good idea for different reasons, and it's a bad idea for different reasons. One of the good things is we have centralized power. There is uniform rules across the state. Everybody kind of has that same footing in different in wherever you are within our Department of Education. So, there are a lot of good things that come with this. And then on the downside, there's a lot of issues that happen because, again, decisions that affect the local and rural communities are decided by people who don't know anything about Maui, who don't know anything about Hana Lanai. So we do have, there are incentives for teachers to work in Hana, to work in Lahaina. And although these monetary incentives do help, one of my biggest issues is really giving that power back to the local communities. Maybe that's something with home rule. But I think overall, there's a lot of help that the Department of Education needs. There's a lot of resources that the county has, and we definitely need to do a lot better. And I think that's really what pushed me into this position, because as a teacher, you realize all these little chaoses that are going on and you just want to do more, but it's just so hard when there's all this red tape with funding because it's a state program. So I do see a lot of benefits if we did move to a county system, but it's not so simple. But I'm very willing to look at any ideas that have to do with education. So mahalo.
There's also been discussion about, we are basically a one-party state, right? Democratic Party rules, and therefore we have people operating in the background, running the Democratic Party, making decisions for us, telling the Democrats who to vote for or what to vote on. And there's been discussion about eliminating the partisan politics in state level, just as it's been on the county level. Now, that took a constitutional convention, but we eliminated partisan politics within the county level, and on the county level, we love that. What's your feelings about eliminating the party system on the state level?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I do need to acknowledge, I love that our county system is nonpartisan. I feel like it really gives people really equal footing across the board, and I don't really hear any complaints within the community about that. So now with the state system, it is very difficult. We are very one-party heavy, and one of the disadvantages of that is within our party, we have people who are hardcore Republicans, but have to sign up as a Democrat because that's the only way to win. So people with these very heavy platforms as a Republican are now Democrats. So that is one issue that happens. I would be very open to eliminate partisan politics. A lot of times we don't even have within the party a lot of support for these candidates, and it usually is who has been in there the longest. I am not a career politician, and I'm not going to pride myself on being a career politician. So I'm not, for me personally, challenging an incumbent, I'm not going to have these same benefits, these same privileges. So as a whole, yeah, I would be very open to eliminating those parties.
Thank you. Wonderful answer. I'm going to open it up now. I want to raise your hand. Who wants to be next? No hands raised? Okay, Mr. Sean.
Okay. Which leader in the public or private sector do you have great respect for? Let's keep it in the public sector, and let's talk about any politicians, and specifically Hawaiian politicians, and let's say politicians from the last 30 years. Let's not say in the last 10, but let's go back a little ways. I want to know who the kapuna are that you feel are people that you really look up to.
One kupuna that I actually went to this town hall meeting is at Pomaikai. It's when the federal government came and they were taking opinions and holding hearings. And there was one kupuna that I really had to go and see, Auntie Faye Hanohano. What I really loved about her was she was really in tune to who she was. She didn't have to play these mind tricks. She really just followed her gut. And if she knew something was wrong, she would stand up and she would let you know. A lot of times in politics, people go along because that's what the majority wants. So even though you're not, your gut is telling you not to, people still do that anyway. And that's one reason why I wanted to really get in here and really speak truth to power. And that's what I think everybody needs to do. So if I can lead by example. So shout out to Auntie Faye.
Since, thank you. What do you believe, how do you feel about each one of the, right now we have a utility that just, I'm a utility engineer, so I kind of understand these things fairly well. But here in Hawaii, the electric utility has consolidated its power. First of all, it was Big Island and Maui and Oahu. Hawaii is their own independent. Then both Big Island and Maui were consolidated under one person. Now they've taken all three of them and made it into a large consortium. What do you feel about the possibility of a locally, of basically taking that and setting up a local utility so that we utilize our own microgrids, we start taking care of our own internal power structure, that type of thing? And we've got about a minute to speak to that.
All right, so with my, I do want to shout out the home party again, but I think really what I really want to bring to this is the sustainability piece, right? Coming from an island people, right? Hemoku, heba'a, heba'a, hemoku. So an island is a canoe, and you have to treat it like that. And a canoe is an island. So as much as we can rely on ourselves, I think that's something that everybody can get behind. And I think, or I should say, should get behind. So as much island resiliency that we can provide to our community, and with this is should be one of our top priorities. Especially with this COVID thing going on, we really had to cut off a lot of things. And so what we are left with now should be where our priorities are. And utilities are pretty important. So how do we be more resilient in that area?
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Flexibility is the main thing. If you have we see what happens when you have a large infrastructure, like what's happening with our anywhere from car parts to poultry production to whatever. When you have these huge, massive chains and one of them breaks, some part of it does, then the entire thing starts to fall apart. So that flexibility is something that's very, very important and something to think about along the way, how we can have that. And we do have the technologies now to make them flexible on a local level. Okay, thanks.
Great. We'll have Daniel next, and then Tommy, you'll be queued up next.
Aloha, everyone. Daniel Smith here. Kapuni, appreciate you running, brother. I have a few questions here. Let's see how much time we got. My first question is, as a public representative, it is a duty to face the truth and to act righteously. Now, these islands reflect the lowest voter turnout in the United States. On May 15th, 2019, Dr. David Kianusai gave a presentation to the Maui County Council, evidencing the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 and showing clear violation of domestic and international law with the ongoing illegal United States military occupation of the Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands. As a candidate for public representation, how do you rectify handling the truth of Dr. Sai's presentation, as well as the works of Keamuku Kapu, Henry Noah, Amelia Gora, Bumpy Kanahele, Leon Su, Dr. Josias, Madame Ruth Bolame, and the Kohovai Pai'aina office in Hilo, etc.? How do you rectify the compliance of the law and restoration of occupied lands?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. I think the first step is for everybody to actually know their history. A lot of times we're just moved along and we just take what we got and we don't question anything. So it is a weird place. So now we do have to stop and start questioning people and start enlightening people of what really happened. So when we have these awesome groups who are going out of their way to really share that knowledge, we have a responsibility to take on that new knowledge and change our perspectives. We can't hold on to what we always known just because we've always had it, So in politics, I mean, that's kind of what it should be about, is getting new information. How do we move forward on that? I don't know. Does that answer your question? Is there something more specific I can answer?
Just looking for the impulse of your heart with the situation. As you said, it's been a long time and an ongoing thing. With Keanu Sai's presentation that happened in the Maui County Council, it was quite pivotal, the event that happened. And so just looking for whatever insights that you have to share. So yeah, thank you. If there's anything else you'd like to share on that, then more than welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So I do want to share that I think it's just awesome that we have a council that could even get us to this point. I am so happy to see all these progressives like putting forth these ideas and letting people know what's really happening. With Keanu Sai and talking about the overthrow, and it is a very significant place within our history. And yeah, like he presented about, a lot of those things were illegal. They were against certain things that they want to do. A lot of the things that were done were caused because of big industry. It was sugar who overthrew the kingdom. It was all these different players. And so really what I feel like my kuleana is to get in here, do the best work that I can as a state representative, right? So now what within my powers do I have to continue this education, to continue all these things that these people are talking about? Because these are people that I very heavily support. If they ask me to do anything, I would drop what I'm doing to help them. So really, I see my kuleana as a way to keep this conversation going and to keep building on that. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kapuni. All right, I have another good question, but I'm going to pass it on to the next interviewers. I don't know, unless I have some time. How much time do I got, Paul?
Well, let's go to the next one.
Let's do that. I'll come back with a good one.
Take it from there. So, Tommy, you're next, or I could go for another question if you want. Are you ready, Tommy? You're on mute right now.
I'm off mute now?
Yep.
I wouldn't mind a couple more minutes.
Okay. So let me just ask a quick question, because we are in a period right now of adjustment and recovery from this whole COVID crisis. What are your thoughts on the governor's assertion towards mandatory vaccines for children and adults?
So vaccines are a very big issue, and there's a lot that people do know, and there's a lot that people don't know. Vaccines, there's different ways of really going about it. We kind of lump it all in the same group. I think what's important for people to know about vaccines, that when you have vaccines like the flu, when you have vaccines like polio, two very different things. whenever you make anything mandatory for the public, that is not going to sit well with the public. I am very much in favor of this quarantine, and I've seen a lot of protests where people are not supportive of this quarantine, and it's kind of that same argument where the government shouldn't be telling people what to do with their own personal lives. And yes, I do respect it, and I want that same respect for me and my children. I don't want my kids exposed to these different chemicals, but if it is proven, we have scientific evidence that really protect us, wearing our mask when we go outside, that should be something that we voluntarily do. So it's not an easy thing to really say I support it or I don't support it. There's a lot of big conversations that happens with it. Knocking out polio, great idea, so I'm in favor of vaccines like that. But when we get to more flu vaccines, and I would actually have to defer to people themselves a lot of times. And I don't want to be like one of those politicians that I'm trying to replace. I want to give as much power to our people, but at the same time, keep everybody healthy. So, mahalo.
Great. Well, along that same line, in terms of our overall health and well-being, what knowledge and study have you done around 5G? And what are your thoughts about the installations that have been happening, even when we're doing this lockdown right now? They're still installing 5Gs throughout the island and also throughout the United States. So, but what are your thoughts regarding Maui and 5G?
Also, I want to state that this is something that we have within the Pono Network. I'm a 35-year member of the Institute of Electronic Engineers. I have different thoughts about that. So answer candidly from your own side. Whatever you say is not going to be held against you. I can guarantee that.
Okay, so for me personally, I treat 5G the same way I treat GMOs. GMOs could be a fantastic thing. It could save a lot of things. But it's really hard to say what are the lifetime effects of something if they aren't tested. So with something like GMO, right, I personally would not support it because there is no lifetime study on GMOs because it hasn't been out for generations. With 5G, I don't know everything about 5G, but I'm going to make sure there are tests done to make sure it's safe first. And if I can see those tests, if I can see different things that prove, yes, this is safe, then I'd be more open to it. But to do it now is kind of out of place, and to do it without public support is something that shouldn't happen with any project, really.
Great. Thank you, Kapuni. Tommy, are you ready? Or Sylvia, why don't you go right next, okay?
Okay, aloha. Thank you for coming. What are the issues that are specific to your district? You're out on the west side, Lahaina, including all that. And I was also wondering, does that include the wastewater injection well issue, or is that just something we're handling on a county level, or does that also affect the state level?
Yeah, so mahalo for having me. So my district is State House District 8, and this goes all the way from Kahakuloa to Waihe'e to Waiahu, where I live, to Wailuku, and to Waikapu. So it does not include Lahaina. It does not include the injection wells, but being in the ocean, affecting these greater, larger things. And it was much bigger than the county. It went up to the federal level. Like, just this one issue affects so many different things. And, I appreciate the people who are trying to put these things back together. A lot of people now are suffering from the sins of those before them, which isn't always fair, but we do have a responsibility to really take care of these things early. It is kind of embarrassment. So we really need to improve a lot of the infrastructure at the county level, and really it is a lot of it is on them. But when it affects our beaches, it affects all these businesses. The state has an obligation to step in, say what's going on, but also to provide those support services so that the county can figure out what to do next.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really great timing for some kind of a Green New Deal to put people back to work, improving our infrastructure. And sorry, I got your district wrong. Are there any specific issues in your district that you can focus on too?
Yeah, so my district is very unique. We have a lot of different people. It's essentially located in Wailuku, and it's a very old district too. This is where a lot of the old sites where we had a lot of different plantations that were centralized here. And this is actually traditionally 500 years ago. This is actually probably one of the healthiest communities in all of Hawaii. Yeah, so I would say that, the top 4 issues within my district, specifically the DOE being way lower than a lot of the other areas. Maui's already lower than the state, but even within our district, we're much lower. And as an educator, I feel a need to really say something about that. We do have a large Native Hawaiian population that is unsupported, which means we have the very high unemployment. And so DOE, DHHL, I'm a taro farmer here, so working with DLNR, we have a lot of issues that go from Kahakulo to Waikapu. We have a lot of water. We have a lot of state lands. So we really need to be empowering our community to take advantage of those things. And so with working with DLNR, and then especially with the Department of Health, with the hospital, the hospital is a very big issue for everybody with Maui Memorial being our only one. So there's definitely a lot of things that we need to treat very aggressively. I think the time is over for us to kind of go along with everybody else. It's great to be very nice to people. It's great to be caring, and that's something that I aspire to be. But really, like, our people need help. With a third of our people going on unemployment, like, we need it now. We need it 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago. So mahalo for your question.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, Laura, why don't you take it the next question? And then Tommy, if you want to take after Laura.
Okay. Let's see. Unmute. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Great. I have 2 different questions. You were talking about the history of Hawaii and how about the the overthrow. And I was wondering what your feelings are on Hawaii as an independent nation. What are your feelings and what are your beliefs about that?
Yeah, mahalo, great question. And I feel like I can speak a little bit more about it because I have studied a lot about it. I think with any issue, really, a lot of people talk when they don't have a lot of information. Because this issue is very close to me, I've tried to dig and do as much research as I can, So going back to the history, and for people who are watching out there, the country of Hawaii, the Kingdom of Hawaii, when it was its own sovereign country, and it had treaties with the United States, it had treaties with countries all over the world, just like any other country, just like we have with Canada. They were on equal footing. And what happened was these people, businessmen went rogue. They wanted to dominate for sugar. They wanted more money. And so there is this huge mess that happened, and it hurt a lot of people. And this hurt still continues to this day. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running. So how do we help those people? A lot of those Native Hawaiians are the ones who are suffering the most. Mm-hmm. So with this action, with this huge hewa, how do I, as a state representative, use those resources to rectify and do the best that I can to support those that were hurt by this? These islands will always be my home, and I'm going to do whatever I can with my power and push the envelope as far as I can to really help our people, to put our people on land, to get them back to where they used to be. So that's really where my focus is right now.
Oh, thank you. And my other question is about the COVID-19. At Maui Memorial Hospital, where we have the biggest outbreak, they're not testing. They're only testing people with symptoms. And so then they go, if they want to go over to the Maui clinic around the corner and then they find out they've been there, they make them test, and that's how they're finding out they're sick. And so what can we do to improve our healthcare and get everybody tested and get the hospital in line?
Yeah, I would say that our hospital system, our Department of Health, these are really big issues. And what I want to stress with this incident and with all incidents across the state, these are not accidents. What we've been preparing for this whole time is what we're going to get. And because we didn't do anything, because we didn't want to invest, because we didn't want to set up all these systems for us to approach these big incidents with as much support as we can. We didn't do any of that. So now we're left with this mess, and the county's trying to step up. And I really appreciate the mayor. He did a lot, and that is great on him. But it's not even his kuleana to do it. It's the state's kuleana. So to see our hospital failing like this, we have volunteers that were in the hospital that wanted to go above and beyond, and they were told by their administration no. And it is so embarrassing. And I feel for everybody who has to work in there, everybody who wants to do more, but they can't. There is so much that we can do. And it really takes the state to really put a plan together and actually do it. And we don't see that for whatever reasons. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know certain things. But I do know that people are suffering. I do know we have a large cluster at our only hospital. And that is just incredibly heavy and wrong.
Thank you.
Tommy, if you would go next.
Okay. Kaapuni, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Tommy.
Your District 8 seat is a very interesting seat. Like you mentioned earlier, it's one of the more historical seats in the state. And more recently, it was occupied by Mr. Josuke for generations. And it seemed that there were many people that were salivating for this seat over the past decade or so. Lots of people went after this seat. And now we have Troy that's in that seat. And in my observation, to me, it seems like he is the establishment's golden boy. And he got one of the, one of the younger ages, got one of the most cherished seats. And he worked for it, sure. And he worked behind the scenes mostly to get the seat. And in my opinion, most of his work was done behind the scenes with the establishment so that when he finally put his name out there, he had overwhelming support. So, and I believe that's what has happened. So my question is, how does someone with progressive values, with a progressive platform, issue by issue is important, but on the bigger picture, we have a power struggle in Hawaii. We've got progressive ideas versus old boy establishment ideas. And Troy is one of the youngest old boys in the state right now. And that's the kind of, and we can call him an old boy because of the mountain of work he put in before he ran for office, behind the scenes with so many elected officials to earn their trust and experience. So now that he's got the seat, he expects to be a lifer here. So my question is, even if people, if you can get the support of the progressive ideas that you're getting out, how do we get the, the ledge to really come along, or even the establishment to be able to support any of these progressive ideas? That's my biggest struggle.
Okay, so if I understand you right, how do we get the state to adopt progressive ideas?
How do we get the establishment to be welcoming of new ideas, right? That's the
Yeah, no, that's
How
exactly.
do outsiders get in?
Outsiders get in by forcing their way in, and that's why I really feel like this time I have to do it. I have to get in there and make sure we get a progressive candidate. And so a lot of times we've been asking these old boy people to, can you support this issue? Can you support that issue? And we haven't been getting any respect. And it's only until we demand that respect that we get in there, that we start actually posing a threat to these people. Will we be respected? So with me going out there, with me actually running, with me bringing my community with me, we're gonna have to do it seat by seat. And once people start respecting it, things are gonna change. I kind of bring this back to the Mauna Kea movement. People didn't support it at first. There was no support, and with politicians seeing how the public perception of it changed, did everybody else come along? So we really can't count on them to lead the way for us. It's going to have to be us doing what we normally do and being confident and hopeful that with people like us that it's going to be changing, because I think time is over for us to be asking for that respect for our progressive values and get out there and do it. So for me, that's my personal view, and that's why I've kind of taken this on and encouraging people around me. I have talked to other people who say they threw in their hat for other state house districts because they saw me run. I'm just an ordinary person. Like you said, I'm not a career politician. I haven't done this my entire life. I'm an educator, and to me, the best person to help education is an educator. So it's great that people devote their lives to public service, and I appreciate that. But we do need a balance of perspectives. And the biggest thing that is really going to help us is really more people getting involved. So as much as I can help that, that's what I want to do. A lot of times when I try to get people to just vote in general, I say, we need you to vote, but there's nobody to vote for. So now I'm coming up here and I says, I need your help. We need to do it together. I need your vote. So that's my plan.
Mahalo.
And as we go along, interviewers, if you could raise your hand when you want to, and I see Sylvia, you'll be next. I just want to ask a quick question, Ka'apuni. I was very impressed with your involvement with Hawaiian culture. Could you tell us a little bit about your background in that arena, and also what you would like to see happen to support kind of this foundational culture that we have here?
Yeah, so really a lot of who I am is because of the support behind me, is because of my parents, my wife, my family, and all of my teachers. And I think coming from a cultural background, it's really a community. Everybody's in this together. And so when I've been built up, I feel this kuleana that now that I received it, I need to pass it on. I need to do my part. And because of that cultural background that I have, I went to Punana Leo. I was in the Hawaiian Immersion Program. I got my Bachelor's of Science, actually in aeronautics, with a minor in applied climatology and business administration. But it's really my culture who made me who I am and really value what I do. So a lot of the things that I do now, being a taro farmer, being a board member of Huio Nova Eha, being an educator because of this cultural value. I was very lucky. I was in Hawaiian Immersion, so I had all these stories and fables and folklore and all these different chiefs, and I learned all these different things that were so enriching to me. And then after high school, I started meeting people and nobody knew anything. And so I was like, I need to start sharing this. I can't hold all this information. So that's what really made me get out there and do it. So that's why I really love education. I fell in love with education. I left a career of aviation, which is very highly regarded, because this is where my na'au pulled me. This is where my gut pulled me. So really with me running, I really wanted to push our culture forward with education. Education is what brought me to who I am. So I want to empower our community. I want teachers who don't know about culture, I want to teach them. I want to be that person. That's actually kind of what my technical job now is. I'm a design specialist. We partner with the complex care superintendent and different public schools to put on cultural leadership trainings. And that's a passion of mine to move our culture forward, whether it's education, whether it's with the Aina, creating more lo'i. And really just, I think that my overall thing is just taking care of our people. A lot of Hawaiians, you know, we're the worst in incarceration, suspension, unemployment, home ownership, heart attacks, heart disease. So I really, really want to be a champion for all those people who are suffering the most. We have a lot of people suffering in our district. And so I feel the need that we need to speak up now. And really with our strong homesteads and within this district, this has to be a strong cultural seat. This has to be with somebody who really understands this seat, because there's so much people who see this going on, and we need to be very aggressive and progressive with our approach. So mahalo.
Thank you, Kapuni, for that. And Sylvia, you have the next question. And if you could raise your hand, also the other members for the next question after that.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, how do you feel about the campaign finance laws, and also how do you feel about accepting donations from corporations or candidates who accept donations from corporations, large donors, and what are your plans for financing your campaign?
So the reason why this is such a big issue is because a lot of times we have candidates who are backed by big machines that have their own agenda. A lot of the issues that candidates come forward with have this backing that they need to support. So whether it's against what they want or what their community wants, they were put in this seat because they had all this financial backing, and now it's time for them to scratch that person's back too. And it is a very sad within our county, with our state, even at the federal level. And this really happens everywhere. As much transparency as we can provide really is the best. A lot of times with campaigns, you have grassroots people running against people who are career politicians, and the funds don't always put people on the same level. The Campaign Spending Commission, they do some work. They do have some matching funds, and it really, and it does help. I can't say it doesn't help, but to say that the field is level is completely wrong. And so we do not have regular people who run for office. You know who's the best person that can solve homelessness? Is a homeless person. The best person in charge of the Department of Health should be a physician. You know, the person that's an educator should be in charge of the Department of Education. So I support trying to equal the playing field. And I know it's a very complicated issue because it looks like we're giving a lot of support to this person and it's not fair. But we do need to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. And we know, based off of our history of everybody who's been elected, that it's the same people. We have one person that would have his whole entire life. And my opponent, if he had a choice, he would be here his whole entire life. And the terms and terms and terms is just a chance for them to make more and more money. So we really need to make it as equal for everybody as possible. Mahalo.
Thank you. I'm thinking, wow, that must be really tempting for a politician trying to run a campaign. What if you were approached by a big name corporation who was willing to really give you some big money to help you win? And would you even go as far as to be willing to take a pledge not to receive corporate donations? How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to share this, but I've been getting a lot of emails on being endorsed by different organizations. And so a lot of the ones that reached out to me were easy. HSTA, great. And then I had one that really kind of went against what is one of my values. And I really had to sit there and think as if I'm going to ask for this endorsement, if I'm going to complete this and move forward with this. And it's something that I couldn't do. And I did have to make that hard decision. And I know for me, if I'm going to be in this job, I have to be comfortable within my skin, within myself. This is actually something that I've learned as a member of the Cultural Resource Commission. I was a commissioner. And a lot of times people think with their head. They try to make the best decisions of dividing up the money. These people get this. These people don't get any. And what I learned from this Ante from Molokai is really to follow your gut. And so when I do have these corporations that I do not accept, like I can tell you right now, if Monsanto or Bayer came and would say, Kapuni, we really want to support you. We need you to support GMOs. Here's the maximum limit. I would say, no, thank you. And I think if that's something that I truly valued and that's something that I should be doing, and I wish that a lot more people did. Mahalo.
Okay,
Thank
Sean.
you for that answer.
Okay, great. We'll go to Sean next, and then we'll be winding up. So we may have one more question after that. So again, raise your hand if you'd like to have that final question. Sean?
Okay, so Kaupuni, I'm going to give you a little bit of a twist on something here. We're going to make this interesting. Article 11, Section 1 of the Hawaii State Constitution states, and I'm quoting, "For the benefit of present and future generations, the state and its political subdivisions shall conserve and protect Hawaii's natural beauty and all natural resources, including land, air, water, mineral, and energy sources, and shall promote the development and utilization of these resources in a manner consistent with their conservation and furtherance of the self-sufficiency of the state." So my question to you is the self-sufficiency of the state, as in the state constitution, that self-sufficiency, could that be perhaps interpreted that it would be better on the county level? That would allow self-sufficiency of the state. In other words, can we actually go to a different reframing of the constitutional structure? So going through the Hawaiian state constitution, we can actually look at the best usage of the state being the county. And I'm kind of offering this to you as a diamond shard, something to perhaps take a look at. And if you want to expand on that a little bit, you're more than happy to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, so we have these laws that are built for us to protect our state. And they seem very clear. And yet that's not what happens. So a lot of it is interpreted in different ways. A lot of it is purposely misinterpreted. And the thing is, we have laws that are supposed to be protecting us. What's happening is it's not happening. We already have the good laws. We have different administrations at different places that are not doing those things. So just having the laws doesn't change things. Allowing our county government to step in and do things that they feel like are not needed is almost a no-brainer for me. If we can include the county as much as possible so that our local people can get their voices heard easier, then I 100% support it. I mean, I have to. I mean, that just makes logical sense.
I appreciate that. I think what's happening is, in my own mind, because I've read the state constitution over and over again many, many times, and what I'm seeing, especially with this COVID experiment and also with the governor that we happen to have at the moment, the state constitution is for protection of the people. And the protection of the people, I think it's starting to shift. And when the counties come together, all of the counties come together, we have an equal amount of power with the state. The state keeps us discordant and separate as counties when we're doing when we're going into union negotiations. Each one of the counties has a certain amount of say, and the state has its say. But if the counties came together as a group, they would be able to actually override the power of the state. So within that context, this is where I'm looking at this furtherance of self-sufficiency of the state. Is actually by doing that, the actual ultimate point of self-sufficiency with the state would be the counties being able to do their own side from their own rule. So thank you for listening to my ramble. But it seems like we're going, all documents are an iterative process, open to interpretation. And that's one of the reasons that we want to, it's not the laws that make the country correct. And I have this extraordinary book. I don't have it here with me by Dee Peretta. He was the New York. He was the attorney for the District of New York, and he said it's not the laws that make a good things to work correctly. It's the people that interpret the laws. So you get the good people in to interpret the laws so they can be done correctly. And so what I'm hearing from you is that's basically what your function is to work within the framework of what's there, but to do it in a way that is more aware and deeper, and the process is more there. And literally have 10 seconds. I'd ramble here for a little bit.
No, thank you. I mean, I definitely agree. The state has this huge responsibility. They're in charge of literally everything. They know that they can't do it, but it's still on them. And then when they fail, we don't really have anything else to do, which is going on with the health system, which is going on with our oceans, which is going on with our waters. So if the state can't take all of that kuleana on, and if they can't complete it all, then we need to figure out something else to do, because the current system is definitely not working for us. So yeah, mahalo for sharing.
Okay, mahalo.
Okay, Laura, if you can unmute yourself, and you will be the last question that we'll have then for Kaapuni. And then we'll be going on to our next interviewer that we have with Troy Hashimoto. You're on mute, Laura. So until I see your little red dot off, you know, okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I have a question. Hawaii has the lowest property tax in the nation. And I think because of this, we have a lot of foreigners who come in and they buy condos. And if you go in Wailea, you'll see these ghost towns of empty condos and empty, houses. And I'm thinking if we could tax foreigners higher on property tax and kind of discourage them from doing that and opening up these condos for the Hawaiian people to live in. That's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if we can do that, raise the property taxes on foreigners.
Yeah, that's definitely something that blows my mind. I do have to send a shout out to our current county council who are upping our property taxes on these different things, who are upping the property taxes. They've actually changed the code, so they're categorized differently now. It is owner-occupied and non-owner occupied. So if you don't live in the house that you own, your property taxes would probably go up, because right now I think our biggest problem is we have so much homes and we have so much homeless. We have so much people who are renting, who are trying to just get by. And so our housing situation is really bad. I think our current county council is doing an amazing job. I hope that our council can get even stronger so we can push this even further next year. But our state does need to step in and figure out ways to discourage foreign countries from buying so much property. How do we make sure that the lands, whether it's state land or private lands, are best used for our people? Because a lot of times they go to the highest bidder. A lot of developments want to make the most money, so they'll make $1 million homes instead of truly affordable housing. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I think with my plan going forward, working with these different entities, that we do need to get people into homes. And so I appreciate your question. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaapuni.
We have Tommy with his hand up for a while.
Oh, okay, great. Tommy, you'll have the last question then, okay?
Thank you. Kaapuni, I appreciate your mentioning the homeless several times. I've been observing and we've been reporting on the unsheltered on Maui for decades now, but recently I've been more involved with the Kanaha Ohana and spent quite a bit of time down there. And I'm beginning to understand that a lot of our homeless and unsheltered issues are created by our government. What can we do? How do we fix this? What is your approach? What are your thoughts on helping the unsheltered? One, our own people that are, longtime either Hawaiian families or longtime residents, and then also about the newcomers, the new homeless to the island.
Yeah, we have a lot of great help from the county. The county is doing all that they can. We have a lot of different nonprofits that help out. We have individual citizens who have to take on this kuleana, but really it rests with that state. And based on the laws that are getting passed, based on the direction we're moving, our houseless community is ignored. They're on their own. No, it doesn't seem like much people care about them. And yeah, looking at Kanaha, it's really hard to even look. It's hard to even look at the pictures. I tried to look online and I just can't imagine being in those situations. Can't imagine me, myself, having children, living that life. And these are incredible people who just fell upon hard times. And then you have those that were neglected and don't have enough mental support. I think that is the biggest kuleana that a Department of Health needs to step up with. And it just kind of makes sense because these people keep going to the hospital and we're still paying for them. So we can give them an ounce of prevention or we can pay for it in the millions. I seen a report where they reported on the highest medical bills was from this person who was houseless. And so every time he got sick, they just treated him and kicked him out the door. And he would come back and they would have to operate and operate and operate. So we really need to start appreciating everybody in our community, not saying, oh, that person is houseless. Oh, they're on their own. We need to see ourselves in them because that could easily be one of us. We have a lot of people in my community. We have a lot of our community who are struggling. And unless our state can get it together, especially the Department of Health, we need to do better. And it is heartbreaking. So mahalo for asking that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaapuni, for the opportunity for us to have this interview and for you to really start to for the community to get to know you and really what a type of candidate you are and the type of representation that you provide for us. So thank you so much for laying it all out and answering the questions very openly and honestly. And thank you. And if you can sign out next, we're going to be focusing next on Troy Hashimoto and the other representative running for District 8. So if you could sign out, Kaapuni, we're going to go on then to our next candidate.
Okay, mahalo everybody. Mahalo, Maipona Network for having it. I really appreciate you guys helping me tell my story, helping somebody who's not a career politician to get my voice out there, give a voice to an educator, to a father, to a husband, a farmer. I really wanted to thank you because without opportunities like this, for me specifically, yes, but with other people who want to get involved, who want to get engaged, and seeing everyday people like myself really helps our community. And if I can do it, any of you can do it. And it's with help from people like you guys. So I appreciate it. And mahalo you guys for having me. And you guys, aloha, liho.